We are all sinners. At some point, we've all sinned in our life, and whoever denies that is a hypocrite. And through those sins, we also learned some major life lessons, which is very personal to each of us. And through these life lessons, we've evolved and become the people that we are today. In this video, I want to talk about some life lessons that I've learned and some things that you can take away, or something that you may have lived through as well. And if you are going through it, this may help you. My first lesson, it's okay to take the first step. And many a times when you take the first step, there'll be nobody who will be supporting you. And even those who support you, they don't fully support you. They do it out of pity. Based on my experience, my first step was one of the most challenging steps that I ever had to make, because I was still very caught up in my vices and I was making a decision to finally make a change in my life. And that's when the devil hit me the hardest, and he used people closest to me to make me stop. And therefore, when you are taking that first step, you will have a lot of doubts, a lot of fear in your mind, and a lot of people in your physical reality will also stop you. These are people who you will value to the utmost. But make sure that you believe in what God has spoken with you. And if something is coming into your conscience to make a change, take the first step. Second, consistency is key, yes, but it is not important if anybody else is looking at you while you are growing. Many times you want to prove yourself to people when you are being consistent about something that you're trying to bring a change in, and somehow your ego self wants you to receive some kind of accolades or recognition from people who surround you. If you're surrounded around snakes, even if they see your growth, they won't acknowledge you. But many times people can overlook your growth realistically because they're caught up in their own life. And you cannot be expecting people to keep coming up to you and giving you praises when you take the first step towards being consistent. Just be consistent, grow in silence if you have to. And when you have to come out, you will come out, and people who are close to you will be with you irrespective. But you make that decision of who you want to surround yourself with. Third, just remember, if they talk badly about people that they once were close to and who were a part of their clique, they will be the ones who will run their mouth when they leave your life, or when you leave their life, for whatever reason it may be. So if you're somebody who's going to join the bandwagon when they are talking badly about somebody who they once hung out with, either they will get back together and they will talk badly about you, and everything that they said about them to you, they will claim you said that because they do not want to get caught now that they're back together. Or if they never get back to each other, and if you're the one who's also breaking free, they will air your dirty laundry and to be everything that you share with them out of good faith. Next, to practice detachment. Initially, when I used to meet people who were so detached but loved so freely and gave so openly, it really confused me. But now I understand those people were so detached with the outcome of what the situation is going to be, and they still love with all their heart and their loyalty, but they understand that life has its own plans for us, and we can never control life, nor can we change God's plan. And living with detachment does not mean that you do not value this person's presence in your life or you love them less. This can include family members, friendships, lovers, and whatnot. You do not control life in general. You do not get attached to what happens with what's next in life, but you're more so living in the present. And even if the present is really shitty, you at least accept it, even if you do not like it. Next, they all want a sharp-minded individual. They all want the smartest person in the room, and they all want to support you till they can use your mind. But as soon as your mind and you become a threat, they will overthrow you like you never existed. And unfortunately, many a times life will teach you really harsh lessons that a lot of people that you thought were loyal to you were only with you because your mind was beneficial to them. But if they cannot compete with you, and if they know that you're going to be 10 steps ahead of them, they see you as a threat. And these lessons is a really hard pill to swallow, because you don't really understand why you're going through the lesson that you're going through. And the only thing that you need to learn is keep your ideas to yourself, and just know sometimes you're not the issue, but you are gifted and you are so smart and so powerful. You're naturally a threat, and so you make use of this power to give back, to educate, and to create something of it, even if that means by yourself. Next, old school love is not dead, however modern the society may get. If you are somebody who wants to be treated royally and who's looking for a king or a queen, make sure that you are treating yourself and you're committing to yourself, because when you commit to yourself and to your self-growth, you attract a man or a woman who's ready to go on that journey with you. And yes, you both are not perfect, but you both want to be the best version for yourself first, that makes you whole within you, and you as two full individuals find each other. You do not need each other, but you want each other. And yes, if you need each other, you're vulnerable enough to confess, I need you. Remember, whatever happens in a relationship is something that you allow in the relationship to happen, not because the world around you is following a certain trend when it comes to relationships. And if you do not fuck with it, you do not have to follow it because you want to fit in. If there is something that you want and love, and if that's something you deserve, make sure you're staying put so that the universe can bring that to you. Next, when you are stuck in a conflict between two people, just make sure that you're not driving a wedge between the two, even if it means unintentionally. If you do not have a stand, just do not take a stand. You do not have to always have a yes or no answer. And if you do not agree with the person, don't agree. Because if you put a wedge between the two, that's going to come back at you when you least expect it. And if anything, if you can build them together and if you can understand what's their side of the story and understand what happened in the situation, and give them a third person perspective, even if that means giving them some tough truth who's actually a friend of yours. In short, if you cannot bridge it, if you also do not have a perspective, just keep quiet, but do not put a wedge between two people. Finally, spirituality is not a trend, it is a lifestyle. You either believe it or either you don't. It is not something that you dance in between, and it's not something that you copy from one or the other just because you want to stay relevant. Everything that happens in the industry, everything that's happening around you constantly changes, and because spirituality is trending does not mean you suddenly start becoming a believer. Spiritualists are people who actually believe in God, but they just don't put God in a pocket. That does not make them any less of a believer. And if you use God's name in vain, that's blasphemy. But if you use spirituality for clout, then truly ask yourself, will your spirituality stand true when life hits you? And when God asks you questions about your spirituality, will you be able to answer them? There are many fake prophets and there are many fake spiritualists in the name of God. Make sure if you're having a belief, is because you believe in it and you stand true 100%. In short, when you start living life from a point of view where you are a soul in a human body, but not a human body inhabiting a soul, you start seeing life differently. You start seeing as to why things happen to you for a reason, and you actually start believing in karma. And many a times people do not want to believe in karma, but what you sow, so shall you reap. What goes around comes around. And that's when you start walking a life with an intention, because whatever intentions you have for another will come back to you, maybe good or maybe bad. And that's when you cannot judge if somebody is in their winning season while somebody else is in their losing season. At this point in my life, I'm more concerned about how heavy my spirit is going to be when I leave this world, and if I'll be filled with guilt, anxiety, fear, or if I'll be content, and if people are actually smiling when I leave instead of telling good riddance. So just make sure people feel good in your presence, even if it's for a few seconds. And if you can't be good to people, stay out of their way. I love you.